now.
Oh, see,
Oh,
I
there
hit
was
the
more
wrong- I
steps.
hit the wrong
There were
one.
more steps. I told you wrong anyway. You're all set now.
All right, I guess we will talk to you, Ashley.
Great,
And everybody, anybody who doesn't have one, we have agendas and packets and things, so let us know.
Right, calling this meeting to order. Are there any adjustments to the agenda this evening? So I need a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meetings. January 22nd, 2023 was our last meeting.
I'll move to approve them.
Thank you, Adam, and a second. Trish.
You second, she heard him first.
Oh, I'll second then.
Thank you, Trish.
I'm sorry, you're calling me Adam. What's
I
going on?
know, I didn't. He was right here.
Sorry.
At the same moment.
I'm,
Tricia is the second tonight. Any discussion about the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Minutes approved. Laura, financial reports?
Okay. So beforehand, I tend to get anxious while I'm doing this, so if I start to talk too fast, just let me know and I'll slow down. And if you have any questions throughout, just let me know.
Thank you.
So just a quick reminder of the steps of the year-end meeting, since it's different than the regular monthly meetings. The first thing I'm gonna review is the year-end transfers. The transfers are included in the financial statements. So I will need those to be approved before I review the year-end financial statements and notes. Once the transfers have been reviewed and approved, I'll review the year-end financial statements and notes. And there will need to be a motion to accept those and close the books for 2023 and a second motion to open the books for 2024. You've all been provided with a statement of changes in fund balances and a separate document with notes to explain the statement. At the top page of the notes, I included a list of explanations of the transfers that were approved in the 2023 budget that was finalized in December 2022. We don't need to discuss these. I just like to give a reminder of what they were, but did anybody want to discuss any of those? Does everyone have the statement of changes and finishes?
So this is all the notes. This is what the notes look like, and this is the spreadsheet that you're looking for.
Just let me know when you're ready.
oh, okay.
Those are attached. They should be attached.
Everyone ready?
Go for it.
So the actual transfers at year end are determined by the net at year end for each program. Due to the timing of the budget and the unpredictability of funding sources, the year end transfers are always different than what is anticipated during the creation of the budget. The 2023 actual transfers are very different because after the budget was finalized, it was decided that the program areas should use some of their designated funds to increase programming throughout the year. The reason the transfer from the designated Adirondack Harvest Regional Fund is so high is that the $51,000 website project that was included in the 2024 budget began in September of 2023. So I'll give an explanation of the transfers. The year-end net from the transfers and operations is $23,631.72. Part of the year-end process is to bring the net balance to zero. This is achieved with the use of transfers. All of the items in blue are the net amounts obtained from running reports at year-end for the individual programs that these funds have been designated for. The items in green are suggested transfer amounts that I've based on the following information. The $20,000 transfer to the designated vehicle funds is to increase the fund that allows us to purchase additional association vehicles if needed in the future. The $1,231.50 transfer from the designated computer fund is the amount that was spent on computers in 2023. The $2,000 transfer from the designated SIP fund is the amount that we spent from that account in 2023. Just as a reminder, the SIP fund is the salary improvement plan. The item in yellow at the top of the page is a transfer to the general fund, which is the remaining balance from the year-end net after all other remaining transfers have been accounted for. Before the approval, I just wanted to remind you that it's the board's responsibility to approve transfers to and from all net assets accounts based on the recommendations of the association executive director. Although the transfers have been entered, they are not finalized until after this meeting. Prior to processing the transfers, reports were run to determine the net program balances and transfer amounts. All of the suggested transfers were reviewed with Elizabeth and Daniel, and it was determined that the suggested transfers provided on this statement are what is best for CCE Essex County at this time. And these will be the starting balances for 2024. However, if at any time during 2024, our financial situation changes, the board can make the decision to use the fund balances in other ways than what the names suggest. Okay. In addition to the year-end transfers, Elizabeth and I wanted to make you aware that we've been investigating the origin of the capital campaign fund to determine if these funds should have been restricted. The information we have so far suggests that they're properly recorded as unrestricted funds. If it is determined that these funds are in fact unrestricted, we would like to combine this fund with the designated new office fund to be used towards expenses that we expect to incur when we move back to the building at the fairgrounds. Approval for this transfer will be requested at a later date if needed. Did anybody have any questions on any of the transfers?
So the board will have to approve that transfer
There you go.
and that,
Yes.
and if we get in the building.
No. We're gonna, once we figure out, we have a couple more things to look through to find out if those funds were supposed to be restricted, because they're not. Once we find out if they're not restricted, then we'll request the board to approve a transfer to combine the two accounts. And then that can be used whenever we move. It'll just sit there until we need it.
What was it there for originally, you know?
The capital.
It was
campaign
there
one.
when I started.
It was, you may have been here. I don't know that anyone was around then on any boards or committees. You might have been on a committee, but, Anita started it. It's clear that the old building was falling down. And nobody was gonna take care of it, and she sort of took it upon herself to do a capital campaign to raise money to, it was like one
Right.
window at a time.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So there, I don't know how much is in that now, but is it right there?
It's on there.
She called it a different name, but I
Well,
remember that.
she might have, yeah. You could buy a window or. Yeah.
So the two items in peach are the ones we would like to combine if they're not restricted.
Or do you wanna?
It's exciting. We have everyone.
Did you give Ashley the sheet?
I'm sorry.
Did you give Ashley the sheet?
I have things for Ashley to sign.
No, did you give her the sheet of the motions?
Oh, she can read from this if she wants to. These are my notes. Do you want me to get the motions up?
The motions, yes.
I didn't know that was for Ashley, so.
Yes, sorry.
Now,
I will do that.
I love it when you make that.
Well, hold on.
Obviously, things go smoother, so thank you. I do have some questions. So the capital campaign, that almost 23,000, that's the estimation for the cost of
No, that's not an estimation. That's just the amount that's in that fund. And then we're thinking about combining the two funds together
Totally,
rather than having two separate funds for basically the same purpose.
the new office and the capital campaign together for the move, thank you. To
Yes.
the new- Got it.
And keeping in mind that these are designated funds, but the bottom line is that any of these funds would be available for any purpose of the association as long as they are not restricted. So, it does seem, this is a good way to make sure that program funds stay with the same program that they were generated by when we can, and those are just we could combine it into the general fund, but it just seems like if we keep them set aside, chances are good we'll need them for that purpose.
So designated kind of sounds like it is restricted to certain things, but
Not
it's
those
not.
are not in finance.
Okay, so designated is just like your intention is to do new office and capital campaign, but other things could happen.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And that's, that also applies to all those other categories for vehicles or equipment or, computers, anything.
All of this. Okay,
It's just a good, healthy budgeting practice.
yeah, nice.
Because we know at some point we're gonna need to buy a vehicle and it's not gonna cost $20,000.
Yeah.
We might have to buy more than one, so.
Anybody else have any questions? So Ashley,
If not, I would like to have a motion to approve the year-end transfers as listed on the statement of changes in fund balances. Anyone, willing to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Chrissy. Any discussions?
Second.
Second first, okay, second. Second to Chrissy's motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tricia. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approved.
okay, so now I'll move on to give a brief review of the 2023 year-end financial statements. These statements are the balance sheet, they're pages 1 through 4. It's the balance sheet, the statement of operations, and the statement of cash flows. Does everyone have that?
Yep.
Yep. So I'll start with the balance sheet. The total cash is $391,304.30, which includes approximately $305,000 in savings. $252,000 of the savings is the IntraFi cash service account, which is held at other FDIC insured institutions to prevent us from going over the $250,000 threshold. It does not include the CD at Community Bank that is listed below under non-current assets. That includes the amount of interest earned between May 25th, 2023 and December 31st, 2023. So that was a very good decision to make.
I want to put your attention on that one. So that CD is under non-current assets that you allocated $100,000 for in May. It's been making over $600 a month. So.
And at the time that was done, we also were able to get the bank to increase our interest rates for our other accounts, and those have also grown substantially. The total current assets are $487,055.18, which includes about $88,000 in accounts receivables, of which only $210 has not been paid in full. This is from another association, so we should be receiving that soon. Total non-current assets are $128,422.83, and that includes the CD and the initial payment deposit. The total right of use assets is $8,062.40. That is the balance of the payments for the copier. Total current liabilities are $84,109.16. The details are broken out on the statement, and I could provide additional information on these items if needed. Total non-current liabilities are $6,108.82, and that's the balance of the copier payments after December 31st, 2024. The total amount of unrestricted funds is $533,322.43, which is the balance of all fund accounts after the year-end transfers. And that matches the balance on the statement of changes in fund balances. Does anyone have any questions or need any more detail on the balance sheet? Well, if not, I'll move on and review the statement of operations, and that's pages 2 and 3. The total revenues are $1,044,687, which is about $36,400 more than what was budgeted. The total expenses are $1,018,535.28, which are about $30,000 more than what was budgeted. And the year-end net from current operations is $26,151.72. The difference in revenues and expenses are primarily due to the additional grants received throughout the year and the fact that the website project began in 2023. The net from transfers, which were previously discussed, is $26,151.72, which results in the net from transfers and operations being at zero. Being brought to zero. Does anyone have any questions about the statement of operations?
So we're 36,000 over budget.
We received $36,400 more in revenues.
Than
We're
what
we're not over budget,
than what we had budgeted. for.
right?
Oh, okay.
Because things change so much after we finalize the budget. And the expenses went up as well, but not as much as the revenues, which is why we have a net income.
Is that a? Oh, I've asked this question before, but is that a problem with being a nonprofit?
That is not a problem. As long as we have an explanation for it, which we do.
So it doesn't really have to come out at zero.
We have to balance the year at zero, and that's where the transfers come into play. Some of the accounts we transfer out of to balance those programs. Some of the accounts we transfer to. If, say, 4-H had more expenses than revenues, we would transfer from that balance account and bring it into the operating account. But that balance at the end has to be zero, because we operate from one year to the next. We don't operate across years, and our balance has to start out at zero for revenues and expenses.
So the net result is that anything that we take in, be above our expenses is going into those designated funds. And I think that we talked about it a little bit last year, that kind of a principle of good health for an organization is to have 3 to 6 months worth of operating expenses in reserve in the event of catastrophic change, and we're at about 30%. So 30% of a little bit less than 30% of our budget. So I would like to have that higher, but we don't budget just to save money. We budget to do programs, but in our case, we have been successful enough so that there is enough to put into those designated funds. And so that is actually kind of a sign of healthy growth, not a problem at all. It's good. And it's not even slightly a problem as a nonprofit. It just means that you are responsibly managing the assets that we have.
Any other questions? Okay. So I'll move on to the statement of cash flows, and that's page 4. And that just shows the differences between 2022 and December 2022 and December 2023. The only thing I wanted to point out on this statement is that the change in net assets at the top of the page is equal to the net from operations, and that the amount listed as depreciation is actually the change in the right of use assets, which is the decrease in the balance of payments for the copier. There hasn't been any change to the fixed assets. Everything else is just the differences between the 2 years, and there's not really much discussion, but if anybody had any questions.
Yeah,
That's fine, George.
yeah, how? This is
You
good.
wouldn't be you.
Why did we short our director 16 cents?
I don't know. We should take care of that right now. Does anyone have
If you
16
need that, I
cents?
got a quarter. there.
Jeepers, I didn't notice.
I shouldn't have said it.
You need to get that back with interest.
Sure. I'll make it a donation.
That was your question?
Yeah, well, I should have asked you after the meeting, but that's hard not to notice that, you know?
I had no trouble not noticing that.
Yeah.
But thank you, George. Are there any other questions for Laura?
So if there are no questions on that, I will move on to the notes to the financial statement, which is that 8-page document at the end of your packets. Everyone all set?
Yes.
So this document provides additional information about CCE Essex County that isn't represented in the financial statements, and it also provides additional details for the financial information found on the balance sheet. The organization and purpose and the significant accounting policies are the same for all extension offices with a few minor exceptions. The vacation accrual policy can vary, but the year-end adjustment is processed in the same way. The adjustment to the CCE Essex County vacation accrual count for 2023 was a decrease of $277.56. CCE Essex County doesn't have a line of credit. Some extension offices do. And the last sentence in the support and revenue section is different for each county. Ours states that we received 36% of our total support and revenues in 2023 from the county. Items 3 through 9, starting on page 3. Are specific to CCE Essex County. The schedule of fixed assets shows that there was no change in the fixed assets through the year. There were additions and dispositions of the asset accrual account, which is just the copier, which we don't actually own. The schedule of investments, number 4, shows the value of the certificate of deposit on 12/31. The additions column shows the total amount that was recorded in that account. The disposition column is an error of interest that was posted to the wrong account. And the balance column shows the actual value of the CD. Page 4, number 5. The schedule of net assets without donor restrictions. This shows all of the activity in the fund accounts. This is the official financial statement that represents the information that was provided in the statement of changes in fund balances that was used to approve the transfers. Page 5, number 6. The classification of functional expenditures breaks out the operating expense into total for program services, management in general, and fundraising. The total on this document is the same as the total on the statement of operations. It's preferred that the cost of management in general be 20% or less, but that is hard to maintain in a small office. This percentage will decrease as we add more programs and program staff.
Ours is currently on page 5 is
It's
25%. So basically that is an important metric also for organizations. If that was reversed and we were paying 75% of our expenses on salaries, on management, that would be a big flag that we were not fulfilling our mission. And that we were not doing enough to serve the community through programming. So 73% program services and 25% general management is pretty close to that the preferred 20%, and it's preferred by CCE, but that's a very hard standard to meet in the world. And we are extremely fortunate that in the fundraising column, we see only 2%, and that's the biggest flag of all if you're spending a ton of money to raise a ton of money. We are well below that.
Would that ideally be even
Where do
higher?
you see the percentage?
No, actually, it's because we are, because we receive most of our funding from public sources, so we're not throwing galas that cost a ton of money and things like that. And,
Okay, so page 6, right of use assets, leases. This shows the activity for our copier lease. The bottom half of the page shows that we have 47 payments remaining and the total payments by year. Page 8, the non-financial asset contributions discloses that our office space is donated and the fair market value of it. The liquidity statement represents the overall well-being of the association, and I'll review this with you. So CCE Essex County has $1,267,043.37 of financial assets available within 1 year of the balance sheet date to meet cash needs for budgeted expenditures consisting of cash of $391,304.30, estimated county, state, and federal appropriations of $458,636, encumbered grants and contracts totaling $383,813.10, and current receivables of $88,799.13. None of the financials are subject to donor or other contractual restrictions that make them unavailable for general expenditures within 1 year of the balance sheet date. CCE Essex County has a goal to maintain financial assets which consists of cash on hand to meet 60 days of normal budgeted operating expenses, which are on average approximately $168,971.46. CCE Essex County has a policy to structure its financial assets to be available as its general expenditures, liabilities, and other obligations come due. In addition, as part of its liquidity management, CCE Essex County invests cash in excess of daily requirements in a certificate of deposit. So even without that certificate of deposit, which is not added to our revenues in this statement, we have a liquidity ratio of 14.99. So we have almost 15 months of expenses we could pay if everything was to remain the same.
And Laura, to your earlier point, that 15, in order to do that, that would mean like a crisis happened, you'd have to liquidate everything in order to be able to do that versus having the 90 days worth of cash on hand type of thing. I'm not making that as a statement. You're the finance person, not me. I wanted to make sure that I was accurate.
Statement.
Okay.
the other thing that's really, again, just comparing what how this association looks to other nonprofit organizations in the nonprofit sector, a liquidity ratio of 2 is considered good. And ours is 14, almost 15. So, again, that speaks to the stability of the organization, the financial stability.
And I'll add another benchmark onto Elizabeth's there. A lot of the associations I work with are shooting in our system to try and be somewhere around 12. So you're right within, I mean, you're on the plus end of that, but you're definitely within at some point, like Elizabeth said earlier, you say, wait a minute here, we've got too much and we need to spend more. Feels like, you're right in that same range as a lot of other associations shooting for a liquidity ratio of 12.
So the last item on page 8 is contingencies and commitments, and we're just required to make that statement. And that basically says that the Extension Association receives grants which are subject to audit by agencies of the state and federal governments. And such audits may result in disallowances and requests for return of funds. Based on prior audits, the Extension Association's administration believes disallowances, if any, will be material. I've never had one request for any funding be returned. We had our Ag and Markets grant during COVID. We had a 20% hold off on the funds, but all of that was paid in full. And we've never had to return any funds to any of the grants. And that is the last for the notes to the financial statement. Does anybody have any questions on that?
What is the percentage rate of the CD?
The percentage rate of the CD is
Or
4, almost 5.
it's from community bank in Plattsburgh. And I just shopped around and
It's gone up since then, the rates, but.
That's pretty good.
it was
That's
eight,
good.
it was also an 18-month, which was longer term than some of the other ones with, at the time, the higher interest rate, the interest rates above 4 were for only 6 months. So we're guaranteed for that rate for 18, which is good, and you never know what's gonna happen, but I would have put more money in there, but we also, again, Champlain National Bank said that they would increase our rate in the amount that we had in accounts at Champlain National. So we elected to continue to work with them since they've been our bank of record for a very, very long time. And Community Bank is not locally owned, but it is a local employer, and I think it's a regional bank, I think. Like New England Regional, I think.
And Champlain Bank helped us with, the program during COVID to manage that for us.
And
But
they,
they're paying right now 4.6.
I think that we might be able to negotiate a higher interest rate from them. If, I would say we should do that at a year of when they gave us our last increase, so I can do that.
Any other questions for Laura? Right,
Some
So-
different than 0.1%.
Definitely.
yeah, a lot better. So I need the first motions to approve as presented the 2023 year-end financial statement. May I have that motion?
I'll move to approve them.
Thank you. Who is it?
Tradition.
Thank you. And a second? Thank you, Jackie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved. The next motion I need to approve as presented the notes to the financial statement. Will someone make that motion?
I'll move to approve the notes.
Thank you, Tricia. Second? I'll second. Thank you, Chrissy. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Last motion to close the 2023 books and open 2024 books.
I'll move to open the, close and open.
Thank you, Tricia.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Adam. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Thanks, Laura, for all the good technical work and great explanations. So next up are staff reports, which we all received already. Do you
Anybody?
want to highlight anything, Elizabeth?
No, I think those reports speak for themselves. They're really exciting and fun and good news. And I really enjoy sharing with them with the supervisors. I don't know how many of them read them, but I was told that some do. And I do share them with the state legislators. So with Billy Jones, Matt Simpson, and Dan Steck, I send them and so no, I don't have any other additions.
Yeah, the pictures are great.
Mhm.
Fun anytime.
I will say that, on the ski day at Whiteface, I was up with our town program and, everybody from 4-H sat behind us. And it was great to see the kids that have never skied before, as we see it in the town program, is that they are hardcore. They're up that magic carpet and down, whether they tumble 15 times, but, my oldest daughter was coming down one of the trails and one of the 4-Hers was a little nervous. Well, she was very nervous. She was crying. So Peyton brought her down and at the end, like the little girl like hugged her and thanked her and kept on saying it. And it was just cool to give these kids the opportunity that even though Whiteface is right in our backyard, that many do not get that opportunity. So kudos to everybody for that.
And that we actually deserves a nice shout out to Claudia, who was our great educator who she was temporary, she was kind of over the winter, but that was really her brainchild and it was really, really fun to see it go.
Yeah, it was fun.
And inspired some more other outdoor programming that is, we're gonna try and tackle in 2024. Yeah, absolutely hats off to the staff for all of that work.
Great, thanks for that shout out. Executive Director.
Okay, I'm very excited to say that, the agreements that we have both with the county and with Cornell have been, completed. And those are, again, requirements that have to be done by March 30th, so that's all done. That's great. And the other association documents being finalized include the, two items that were attached, which is your, I can never get this, affirmative action, diversity and inclusion plan, which is this big fat packet. And I would like to make a comment about it. It is required, of us to adopt this. And it is not a substitute for actually doing the work that is making our community and our association an inclusive place. A part of me is super frustrated by this document because it's lengthy and it has a checklist and it has a lot of resources in it, but it in no way embodies the spirit or the values of diversity and inclusion from this human standpoint. This is sort of like the requirements that we have to meet, and they're valid. Of course, they're valid, but I just want you to know that our standard in-house is higher than this to create an inclusive community and association.
I'll review it a little bit more later when we're gonna vote, and I'll let you know what the changes are that were made since last year and
Thank you.
make some points that I picked up on reading it again this year.
Yeah, thank you, Lori. It's an owner's job to read it. Do you want to do that now?
Do you wanna, did you start on doing that?
Well,
Or we can.
I mean, I don't have to do it.
Don't have to read it if you don't.
if you want to do it now, Lori, go ahead. Then they
We'll
can-
do it. You'll also, this is one of the pieces or documents that will live in your binder for the rest of the year. In fact, some of you may still have last year's that I forgot to remove, but it'll always be in the back of your binder, so you can refer to it if you need to. But in your packet right now, you have a copy of this year's, and I just wanted to point out a couple of things, just so you know what you're voting on. So, if you haven't, you can follow along on page 9. There is a list of non-discrimination statements and gender neutral language that we use in our communications. So every year I make sure that the staff has the updated version of whatever we're putting on our letterheads or our salutations in our emails. And then there's poster language as well, or other things that need to go on flyers. So that section is sort of page 8 and 9. And on page 10, there were updates to the New York State minimum wage, and they removed a section on New York State tips, tip appropriation, which we wouldn't deal with here anyway. On page 11, the sexual harassment and discrimination prevention policy, the title and the link were updated there. And there's a link updated for the CCE civil rights training. Now, the digital version of this, which I did email to everyone, will have those links in them, obviously. So if you can, some of the stuff you can click through to, some of the stuff only the staff has access to. But we all take an annual CCE civil rights training, a sexual harassment discrimination prevention training, which the board will take as well. And our volunteers take that training. And then this year we have a couple of other trainings. I think we're going to have another DEI training for the office that will have all the staff take. And possibly a couple others. We'll keep you updated on that. On page 12, partway down is the accessibility information for all of our program flyers. That will just say, make sure that people know they can contact us for accommodations if they need it. On page 13, in the top third there's the CCE Skills for Success and CCE Leadership Skills for Success. Those were updated and added to this. Those are things that we have access to and were evaluated on at our performance evaluations. And the staff is introduced to when they're hired here. It's also part of their position descriptions. It's really long, so I don't want to take too long on it. So stop me if you have a question. I just wanted to make a note that on page 16, there's a link there that says a variety of resources and training sessions are available on the CCE staff site under belonging. That's something that all staff has access to. It's a great wealth of resources for us. And then on page 17, there is a whole section here, and I'm going to freely admit, this was the first year I read every single word in this document. So I found a lot of things that I thought were interesting in terms of this. There's a sentence that says, as a system, CCE as a system has created an organization profile of its entire workforce to determine whether barriers to equal employment opportunity exist, and to identify organizational units wherein women or minorities are underrepresented or concentrated. So they have done a study across the state of all the CCE associations. So that is data that we have access to and we can look up for our organization.
Just curiosity question, do you get male applicants?
Very rarely. Yeah, it's super interesting. I was just thinking that today as we got a report of applicants. We have a couple of jobs out there now, and I kind of am on the lookout for a male name here and there. And it's pretty rare.
But we are attending a job fair Thursday.
Yep.
And that might change some of our, who might apply.
Yep.
Which could be interesting.
Right, but the history has been mostly, right?
It has, and I mean, not really by design. It's
I know
That's
one-
not-
shook out
it's
that
not
way.
that-
I know one male that worked there at one.
I know a couple.
It's not that uncommon when I attend the supervisors meetings, the staff, except for in public safety. All the people reporting are women, and the leads of all of the agencies that report are also all women. And I would venture to say that almost all the workforce is women, predominantly women too. Is that true?
Again, I think it goes back to your department. So if you're looking at your public safety and buildings and grounds in that area, it's gonna be predominantly male. But I think in the human services, I would say primarily women, except for some of social services, so.
There's a lot more in between here, but on page 29, I just wanted to point out, there's a section for CCE Association search committees. And I sort of skimmed it in the past, but this year I dove in and realized there's a whole list to DEI interview questions. So we always do include 1 or 2 DEI questions in our interviews, but this is actually a good comprehensive list of questions that we are required to pick 2 from. So we're going to be using that going forward. One more change is on page 33. There's the second paragraph, this effort, CC administration, and this is the equal employment program activity to advance diversity and inclusion. So this is part of that effort that an admin provides central funding for the sourcing of open positions through the New York State Job Bank. And then partner sites for veterans and individuals with disabilities have links to our employment site, and we actively promote employment opportunities with these organizations. So we really appreciate admin's efforts in this. Whenever we post a job, it does go to many places that we don't have to pay for and don't have to, it just goes there, which is great. And yeah, I think that's, I got a lot of tabs here. They're mostly for me. But if you have any questions, but it's a really comprehensive document, but as Elizabeth said, it, it's words on paper, and in our office, we try to live this every day when we can.
This is the letter of the law, not the spirit.
Right.
Or maybe it is the spirit, I don't know. We have had great conversations with the team, the DEI team from Extension. And they back us up and help us out and provide a lot of resources. And it's still hard to implement all the resources that we could with the demographics in the county where we live. So our goal is really to be as inclusive as we can.
The goal we really crush is employing women.
Yeah, we're good at that.
So we will need a motion we need to approve this for 2024.
I got a question.
Okay.
The questions, you said you have a list
Mhm.
of DEI questions for a search committee to ask?
Mhm. Yep, and they're typically it's a question, they're questions related to, have you been in situations where you had to deal with a racial issue or some sort of diversity issue? How has that been handled? Mostly, employment related stuff. We don't typically have questions that ask somebody's personal views on this.
That's- well,
And
So is that
that's what you're
something
getting
new?
at.
Yeah, so is that something new?
I don't think this is new, Paul. This has been it's been in the AADIP for a few years, I think.
So meeting those federal equal employment and equal program opportunities, that part is definitely not new. The resources have evolved over the years, and there's more of it because we've been able to, Extension Administration's investment's been the same, but we've had other folks from various associations across the state that have some expertise to volunteer their time to be on committees to collect these type of resources. So the resources to use, the requirements haven't changed from the federal government in a long time. I don't remember the year, but long time, like decades ago.
But are the questions that were provided for or required for interviewing, is that something new?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I can't answer that exactly, like, is it new this past year? No. When did it make it into the ADA plan? I'd have to go back and ask somebody about that. I don't have that answer.
Thank you.
If you would like to see a list of the questions, I can provide those.
The reason I ask is because the last one I was on, I didn't see any of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
We did ask
Yeah.
Elizabeth the
You-
DEI.
We definitely asked.
I had to write a
I
statement.
didn't see
Yeah, you
this.
wrote a statement and we asked one during the interviews, so,
Questions about DEI, was there?
yeah.
Yeah.
On the search committee, you weren't on that search committee, George, but, you did ask Elizabeth.
I would say in the past 2 years, 2.5, maybe 3 years, we've always included at least one, if not two, just sort of a general,
That's,
have you been in situations about this? What has come up? How was it handled? That sort of thing.
We didn't know about the list then.
No,
But now we know.
no, I confess I didn't know about this actual list until this year.
Well, I need a motion to approve the 2024 Affirmative Action Diversity and Inclusion Plan. Someone willing to make that motion?
I'll move to approve the plan.
Thank you, Tricia. Second, Markale, thank you. Any discussion about the AADIP? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Plan approved. So now back to the executive director. of the board.
Okay, I think, we have one more to do that I'm gonna have Lori do, which is that we also need to approve the emergency management plan. Lori, would you?
Oh, yeah. we
Do
can
that.
Please do that now too.
Yeah.
This is another document that we're required to provide and upload for CCE admin to be assured that we can handle emergencies here. So you have that in your packet. And there are very few changes from last year. Actually, we'll have to sign a page here too. I'll have that afterwards, actually. We do have more staff certified in first aid and CPR now. And we've updated a few of the contacts here. I will say that there's another piece we're working on for this, which is an active shooter plan for large events like the Harvest Festival. Which is something that we've been a little worried about for a few years, but now I think we're actually gonna pull together. I found some good resources and we're gonna work on pulling together a plan for large events and also our office, just in case. And we'll add that, but for now, this is the part that is required and we can upload that, but we can add our active shooter plan. Unfortunately,
That word shoot.
I hate to say we have to get one, but we do.
Do other extensions have something along that? Is that where you would pull some? from,
That's
or-
a really good question. I don't know, Paul, do you know if other associations have active shooter plans?
There are, the problem is finding one that's got a similar type of, the facilities and character to the county, like the county I'm sitting in, Onondaga, Syracuse, they do have one. But even that, I don't know, their office changed from being downtown Syracuse to not being in downtown. And so I don't know if that's applicable or not. The types of things that they went through, the categories would be applicable, but the specifics may or may not. We do have a resource in Keith Tidball, who would be more, I'm sure would be happy to help, at least advise on the type of things that you're talking about with active shooter. He does that as part of his portfolio.
That's
And
great, Paul, thank
we
you.
can connect offline about that, Lori.
That, I really like that, thank you. I mean, I wasn't gonna start from scratch, but I also, I don't know why, I didn't think of just checking with some other associations. 'Cause that's a good
I
point.
can ask on the next CD call, I'll try and remember to do
Great.
that. The other thing is that we are in touch regularly with County Sheriff, who lives around the corner and who has experience in these things, and he's very approachable and very wise, I would say. And knows our county.
And the section in here that's not new, but was added a few years ago is the public employer health emergency plan, which was put in place during the pandemic. And we now leave it as part of the planning, in case something like that happens again. Any
Were there
questions?
any changes? Lori?
Just as I said, just a few more staff with CPR. We update the board of directors, which, and I kind of apologize here. I know Markale is our secretary. Thank you, Markale, and I keep leaving her office. The actual designated, she's in our list of board of directors. I just didn't move her up to secretary. But it has all of our staff contact information, so that gets updated. Our emergency phone tree gets updated. So those would be the only changes, just updates. Our building exits don't change. The little schematic here is actually not 100% accurate of like whose cubicles are where, but it's not a complicated exit plan out of this building. But other than that, I know there were not any large changes.
So we just need a motion to approve the 2024 emergency management plan.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Chrissy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Plan approved.
Great.
Go back to you, Elizabeth.
Great, thank you for doing that, Lori. The last thing on my list is to talk about a little bit about the staff changes and ongoing hiring. So there have been two staff changes. One, as I think all of you are aware, is that Carly Summers has resigned as the ag issue leader, and we are actively visiting the position description and trying to, as quickly as possible, replace Carly's expertise. And she has done excellent work for 7 years, and we will continue to build on the work that she has done with that new position. And I hope to have that position finalized no later than the end of this week and have that process underway very soon. The other person who is transitioned, I think everyone knows, is Megan, she will be going full-time to Harvest, New York, starting in September. So our farm to school support will be regional. So she will continue to serve our county, but she will just not be an employee of the association. She'll be on maternity leave starting in June, so she will be out a little bit earlier than we thought in September, but we will continue to be doing farm to school education work, but we will not be replacing her position. And also, again, credit to her, she's done excellent work, which is work that will continue to benefit our county. We also have, Laura is a new employee to Essex County, and I think you can see by the report that she gave why that is great news for us. She was a shared employee between Jefferson and Franklin, and,
No.
Franklin and Essex.
Franklin and Essex, I'm sorry. And, honestly, I have to say that in her quiet little voice, she patted herself on the back for the first time since I've known her, when she revealed, as we were reviewing these finances, that she has never been cited for any deficiencies or any errors in the 20 years that she's been doing this for 3 different counties. So we are super lucky to have one of the leading state experts in our house. And
So you're exclusively Essex?
that's right.
Woohoo, good for you.
And it's already just made a real difference in availability for Lori to have backup, for the staff to have backup, for me to dig deeper. I mean, because I have incredible trust in her, I have not actually taken as much time as I would like to be familiar with it, because I know the reports are all accurate. And she's, everything that is Laura presents to us is reviewed by our SBN finance person too. So it's just a real level of accountability for the supervisors who put a lot of trust in us and who support this work. 100% assurance that everything is being managed and accounted for impeccably.
Congratulations, Laura.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you,
excited.
everyone.
Congratulations.
I'm happy to be here and only here.
So the other thing is that we will have 3, in addition to finding a new ag resource educator, we have 3 more positions that are open right now. So please pass the word. We have a local food educator and a pop club summer position. Those are really those are up and available right now. We actually have some flyers if you want to take any to circulate them around. We can also send them digitally. And those are grant funded 3-year positions. And we are, just as of today, just about to have our 4-H educator position be out there in the world. That's a full-time educator position who will work with Jen. And I'm really excited about this other position, which is actually not one that we had planned on, but there's a public health corps fellow who has been offered to our association by the Department of Health. So after COVID, there was a need for more people to understand public health. So New York State created the Public Health Corps, and we are the recipient. The Public Health Corps pays their entire salary, all their benefits, does all of their payroll and human services and everything. Basically, we just write a position description, and we wrote one, and they like it. So, and because thanks to the Public Health Department, because Linda Beers tapped us, we didn't have to apply. We just had to submit our position description. And we wrote it for a community outreach person to be able to connect the dots between the public health issues around food and community wellness and senior wellness, youth development. It's kind of a catch-all. It's really kind of a catch-all for the kind of outreach that will really enable us to do more. You know, and it's really about communicating what we do as much as we can. And that person will start August 5th. And no doubt all of these people will be looking for housing. Any leads, let us know.
How long is that contract?
It's 2 years and it costs us nothing, 0. That's not true. If there are expenses associated with their work, it will cost us. But we already have allocated expenses for the kinds of programs that we want them to support and communicate about. And if we want to, and the state budget doesn't change, and this program continues, we'll be eligible for that going forward. Really great opportunity for us.
Is the aggregator gonna continue to serve the same function that Carl is serving, or is it gonna evolve in any way position?
I think what we're gonna do is go back to the position description that from when Carly was hired, which is an agriculture resource educator. And so it will be very similar, but it will be slightly different.
Wasn't too bad.
A resource educator.
Was that, like, so are they not gonna be leading the farm plan anymore?
No, actually, that's, no, they will absolutely be doing that. That will be their top level, most important task. Yeah, the position will be written around that.
Okay.
And I will say that that is considered an industry. It's the standard for excellence across the state.
Mhm.
And so that's why it is really important for us to continue to carry it out. It was very well written. It's very, very thoughtfully done and it's underway. And so that will be the primary, the position will be built around executing that.
Her job was basically working with agricultural
Mhm.
sector.
Mhm.
Well, this other guy, he's gonna be in public health, so,
No, those are two different things.
no, I know, that's why I say that
Oh, yeah.
the program that's getting paid for, they'll be working with the youth and the elderly more or less. Carly worked with mostly agricultural aspects of the county. At least that's what we hired her for.
That is correct. And the only other thing that I would add to my report is that, the ag census came out and I will be writing a report for you from that. I'm gonna attend every 5 years, there's an agricultural census done. And, the short version is that we went down the past 5 years, we went down from 285 farms to 245 farms. We went down, about $7,000 or $8,000 in land in farms. And I think, the number of farms, I don't really have the information, but I'm attending a webinar to be able to generate what we had before, which is a profile of our county. And I'll share it with you when I have generated it.
So they've got the results then. It's-
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it took them from 2022 until today, or not today, this month, earlier this month. And, but I'll get that out to you because it is significant. It has a lot of interesting information about the agricultural profile of Essex County. And that's all I have.
The next piece of old business is just that there's a conflict for the next meeting, so we want to do a quick poll. If folks can attend either Monday, May 6th, or Monday, April 29th. Does anyone have a conflict with either of those dates? Okay. Check your calendar.
What time?
Same time.
5:30.
Both of those are,
Monday,
it's the two previous Mondays.
I can't do the 29th.
May 6th, and what was the other date?
April 29.
Oops.
I personally am not available either day.
Yeah, I'm not able.
I think we are gonna need to check in because we don't have a meeting scheduled in April, but we can doodle poll, right, Lori? What do you think?
I can.
What do you,
Sounds like the thing to do at this point.
yeah, I think so.
For other dates. Okay. Great. So the NCRAT update,
It's kind of not really an update. It's really just that I just wanted to, I can't close that conversation yet because the last county that terminated their contract, it plays out until May. And so, at that point, there will be some resolution of the finances that were associated with it, but I don't have a report on that yet because it's not, final.
So basically, what's that?
That was, remember it was the regional agriculture team that, it included 4 state specialists for our region and.
Yeah.
So, it's just a contract that I can't close out yet. Completely.
They've all moved on anyways, haven't they?
There is still one dairy person who is still part of that team. But there were the other three, actually, you might hear Kitty O'Neill on the radio. She's now doing a radio, she's the statewide climate specialist with Harvest, New York. And I think Mike Hunter has gone to work for private industry. Is that correct, Paul?
No, it's not. Another statewide position with integrated pest management, IPM.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. And
Kitty
then,
was on in CPR.
yeah,
She had an article on her today.
yeah, she's speaking regularly on that program.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And the other person was a dairy person who got a position in Pennsylvania. Daniela got a position in Pennsylvania. Yeah. So like I say, I'm sorry, I can't really close that one out yet because we don't know yet. And that leads us to the strategic planning conversation. So Ruth Ellen, thank you for being really patient with us. You have two.
I'm just glad I don't have to do your job kind of stuff anymore.
Well, I'm happy to do it, so that's okay. So you have two documents that, the first one was not sent out with your packets, so I think it's worth it to turn it over to Ruth Ellen to kind of go through the memo that she sent dated March 18th. And Ruth Ellen, do you want to, I think that you've met just about everybody in the room here, at least on Zoom. So do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Can you turn up the volume?
Hold on, let me turn up the volume. That one, that side.
You see the plus?
Nope, there we go.
Hey, can you speak your phone?
Yeah, can you hear me? And
On the way.
no, I'm sorry, I've been moving my computer around because the sun has been setting behind me and I'm just trying not to have the glare in the room, so. Ruth Ellen Blodgett. I was contracted on December 4th by Essex County to engage to lead you through a strategic planning process. I really have, either through some of the personal interviews that we've had or through some of the program advisory committees or individual meetings with board liaisons. I think I've spoken to most of you, so I think you know my background, but very quickly, I have been an executive director and a CEO of numerous not-for-profits in New York State for the last 35 years. I have worked with Extension, both as an employee at one point for Jefferson County when they contracted with the National Civic League to do a 3-county planning process for Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence. And I have recently completed a strategic plan for Cornell Cooperative Extension of Jefferson County. As most of you know, what I have said in my beginning discussions with the different groups and individuals that I've talked with, I do not do traditional strategic planning, which is sort of a textbook process where a lot of strategic planners sit down and sit with the team, with the board, maybe a couple of outside people, and talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. As I've said, my little phrases, I frequently feel like that's navel gazing. You are looking at yourself and trying to decide what is best for the organization. I approach it from the standpoint of you have amazing resources. The community has needs. Let's determine with an extensive interview and research process what those community needs are, statistically and anecdotally. And then let's decide how you, as Cornell Cooperative Extension, can best apply the programs that you have to meeting those community needs. I think, you know, Cornell has so many wonderful resources, and over the years, your extension staff have taken those resources and brought them to the community. But my understanding is that Essex County Extension has never had a strategic plan. Is that correct, Elizabeth? Yes.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Nothing this extensive. I mean, there are ancient files that say strategic plan, but yeah.
And really, Lori, it's really interesting because when I go in, I do a lot of strategic planning now, and I'll go in and say, could I review your last strategic plan? And people go, oh, let me think where we put that. So my philosophy on strategic plans is that in the not-for-profit world, you call it a strategic plan. In the for-profit world, they call it their business plan. And boards of directors of boards of directors of for-profits are beholden to their shareholders to be able to show a return on investment for what they're doing. I translate that for what I'm trying to do for you is that you have funding to run programs for your community. I see your community as your shareholders. What is the return on investment that they and, for example, the Board of Supervisors is getting on the money they give you? How can you absolutely point to the impact that you are having by using your resources in Essex County? I found it interesting. Before I started this process, I spoke with several board members. I went through an old SWOT that the board did do about 4 years ago. And in the surveys that we sent out to all of you, a couple of things kept coming back that were of concern to the board and of concern to others. And that was, how do you know you're staying relevant in the county? And how do you know you're meeting the community needs? And so that's the process that we've been engaged in since the beginning. We've done an extensive community needs assessment, looking at public health, looking at state outcomes for Essex County, both social issues and health issues. We did a grid of all of the community agencies in Essex County and some that serve other counties as well, that cover ag and natural resources. And we looked at some of the overlapping missions that they have to extension. I read every word of the Farmland Protection and Food Security Plan system. We did surveys of the board, the staff, the Ag Program Advisory Committee, Community Vitality Wellness, the Adirondack Harvest Pact, and community stakeholders and partners. We've had personal interviews with the head of public health, the county board of supervisors, food system partners, board members, staff, program managers, and community stakeholders. And we've met with the advisory committees. So we have an extensive packet of input in terms of what both your internal sources and your external sources are saying are the highest community priorities. The key areas that we are focusing on based on all of that. First of all, did any of you have a chance to read the memo so that I'm not reiterating everything?
Yeah.
Okay. So the key
Ruth
priority.
Ellen, I think that's a some yes and some no, so.
Okay. All right, I won't go into too much detail. For those of you that didn't, I hope this little conversation will spark you to go back and read it thoroughly. It represents many hours of Elizabeth's and mine and staff work. Of course, you're going to address key priority areas in the area of agriculture. Small farm viability and sustainability in absolutely every conversation rose to the top. I think one of the things that to really emphasize your relevance and your impact in the community, we heard from not only the chair of the Board of Supervisors, but others. when I asked if Cornell Cooperative Extension was presumed to be the lead in moving the farmland protection and food system plan forward, there was Elizabeth, tell me, he didn't take a breath. Sean Gilliland said, absolutely. And so I think that when we're talking about rehiring for the ag person, I believe that you were possibly going to be seeing how you can take much more of a reporting out role on the moving and coordinating the movement of that plan. That is something that was expressed by many, many people. And I think the quality of that plan is just amazing. And Carly had a lot to do with the input and the data collecting. The people who wrote it did a fantastic job. There is a written work plan in that document that puts CCE as the lead for several projects, as a support for several projects, but also from the perspective of your major funder, for a major funder, the county, their expectation is that you are going to be looking to get the other organizations who are written in there to report out their progress, and that you are going to be the funnel to the county and to reporting out the impact of implementing that plan. So I just wanted to raise that as what is going to be a key issue for Elizabeth when she is hiring for that position. It's going to focus a lot around that. Food system is going to be another area of key priority. You know this, exactly what the initiatives or the goals are that you will determine to move this forward will be devised when you have a full staff. Health and wellness was the big one. Some of the indicators in Essex County are pretty unhealthy. Some of the highest rates of chronic disease, higher than New York in general, and higher than some of the North Country around you. We talked to Linda Beers at Public Health, and the conversation had led to a discussion about how public health could better integrate with Cornell, and hence Elizabeth was able to follow up and work on getting a fellow. There are things that we can be doing at Extension to work more closely with public health in addressing both youth and senior health outcomes. And the plan will address very specific measurable things that you can do, that you can report out on, and be able to demonstrate to the community what your impact is on wellness outcomes. One of the other things that came up in that discussion was the high percentage, the growing percentage of disconnected youth in Essex County. New York State went down 6%, and Essex County's disconnected youth grew by 11%. So there will be a discussion about how we can build in more youth resiliency programming into the 4-H program as one way to try and address that. I also want to, maybe some of you know this, it was a big piece of what we did in the Jefferson County plan, because they had been involved with the state in what is called the 1115 Medicaid and Medicare waiver in New York State. Adirondack Health Institute has taken the lead in this, and it is a waiver from the federal government to be able to use community-based organizations to apply their resources to achieving better health outcomes. And so Elizabeth is now in touch with AHI, and you've had a conversation with them, I believe, haven't you? Yeah. Mm-hmm. What it means in the future is that your programming that can address senior wellness, youth wellness, nutrition, food, etc. You can be part of a social care network, other organizations who do human services, and in the future, you may get paid to be able to serve a certain client population who are being who are on Medicaid. So your wellness program is going to be key for your relevance in Essex County. One of the other high priorities that came out over and over again was workforce development. Actually, it came up as one of the most three most critical or emerging needs by both the Board of Supervisors, you as a board, the Ag Program Advisory Committee, Adirondack Harvest Committee, and community stakeholders. And over again, there was discussion about how workforce development is really a K through 12 process, and how can that be integrated into the 4-H programming, making sure that kids understand what opportunities there might be for them. Later on with the ag group, we talked about it doesn't have to be being a farmer, but it can be those support systems, whether it be through tech, whether it be through environmental sciences, whether it be through welding, whether it be through farm equipment maintenance, but to use 4-H as a training ground or an education ground for workforce development in Essex County. We had a couple of really good conversations with folks who are sitting around the table today, I believe, no, at least one is, on 4-H and youth development. One of the comments that we heard was 4-H is a sliver of what it used to be, that there are, something like 46 kids, Elizabeth, technically enrolled in 4-H in the county. And so issues such as if you can't get the kids to come to 4-H, how do we get 4-H to go to the kids? And I think that's one of the philosophies that Jefferson County is using, and has hundreds of kids signed up through their after school programs. So we had a very, very long conversation. What day? Friday? Talking about what particular school programs, after school programs, that 4-H might be able to partner with. That will be part of one of the goals that we bring back to you for exactly how 4-H can rejuvenate itself, not just in the traditional way that, though we hope that that can be expanded as well, but also through a youth development component to address some of the critical issues that were identified through the health and wellness discussions with public health. There will need to be a marketing and development plan, at least a marketing and a communication plan. Heard from so many people that, oh, I didn't know that Extension did that. Oh, you mean Extension does that too? I thought it was just ag and nutrition and whatever. So if you want to be recognized and relevant in the community, whatever we are doing to achieve priority goals and the initiatives, you need to be able to talk about it and get the information out, and to highlight Extension as really tackling some of the highest priorities that the county is facing. I've added one more category here that I think we will need to address when we go to write the plan, and that is organizational success. I think that you're all feeling the impact now of some staff turnover and some in some key positions. We really need to address recruitment, retention, and succession planning. I also believe that several of you in the feedback you gave talked about diversification of funding. I will tell you, having done multi-million-dollar development plans for numerous organizations, if you can put forth that this was a key priority in your county and it had terrible, terrible outcomes, and you devoted these resources to either taking the lead in or working as a support organization to another organization who is taking the lead to address that issue with your resources, your diversification becomes much greater in terms of private foundations and private donors to fund initiatives, and less reliant on governmental grants. So I think doing this, and you're being able, through a very measurable strategic outcome plan, be able to go with results that you could even do some pilot projects or private funding to try and break out of the mold of just government. So the strategic plan that we're planning on building for you is going to be a roadmap, and it's different than what you've been doing in the past, I believe. Your staff has done a great job in taking Cornell resources, bringing them to the community, and applying them. But they've done this outside of a roadmap. What we're going to be building for you, Elizabeth and I and her staff team, will be a plan that the board adopts and says, yes, we agree. There's thousands and thousands of things out there that maybe we could be addressing. We don't have the resources to do them all, but we agree that we're going to have these 6 priorities. We're going to demonstrate who we're partnering with, and that's how we're going to focus our resources. That does not mean that you're not doing all the other programs that you do. It does mean that you are focusing resources that you have or can access from Cornell to address some of the highest community needs. So here's where we're at. We have reams and reams of data, information, interviews, feedback from staff, suggestions from individual farmers, and we can coalesce that, and we can go through, and we can start to come back to you with, these are what we believe are the 6 or 7 things that extension really needs to be focusing on. Elizabeth and I could sit down and write it for you right now. Well, it would take us several weeks, but we could do that. It would be a terrible, terrible mistake to do that. This is a process that everybody from the board to the executive director to the senior management team to those that are actually doing the programs have to come together and have an agreement on. It's a way for the board to hold Elizabeth accountable for what they agree to do over the next several years, 3 years. It's a way for Elizabeth to work with her senior management team to ensure that the priorities are being met, that the data is being gathered. And it's a way for that senior management team to work with their staff to understand that what they're doing is really impacting high community priorities. It becomes an organizational plan. And what I think happens too often, and extension is just one example, lots of other organizations are a composite of program areas, and they get grants to do programs in those program areas. Therefore, when they do their planning, they plan program areas. They do not plan organizational goals. It is not an organizational strategic plan. It's a program plan. It keeps the organization siloed. For example, when we do this plan, some of these wellness issues that we might have to deal with are going to involve community vitality, absolutely. But there may be ways that the ag program leader and the community vitality program leader look at each other and say, you know what? You have a component and I have a component that we can address this together. So it becomes cross-disciplinary. It is a way to build a feeling of an organization doing things together, pulling their resources together. And finally, I will say that in Jefferson County, and I'm hoping that Elizabeth and I can work with Amanda to do this at the end, everything gets fed into a document of outcomes, a spreadsheet. And we will be able to feed back real outcomes, which I know Amanda has now in Jefferson County has been able to transition that a little bit so that it'll facilitate her reporting into Cornell to make it more efficient so they aren't doing numerous reports. Bottom line is we have the information. My strong suggestion and proposal is we should stop right now. We can continue to get more information as we go along, but this is not something that should happen until Elizabeth has hired her key staff. Her key staff is completely onboarded, that Elizabeth has an opportunity to form a relationship with the new folks. And then once the summer months are over, which according to Elizabeth is a real zoo up there trying to get everything done, the team should come back together and we work with the management team to say, here are the priorities, here are the priority areas. Let's talk about what is reasonable for you to make your priorities, your goals to achieve this. I work around what are called SMART goals, which they're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're time-based. So,
Ruth Ellen, can I interrupt you for just a second? I think a couple of people have some questions.
okay,
So
I'm just about done, and then I have lots of time for that. So the point is that this is going to be a process that I think cannot be done right now because you have a fragmented staff. You don't have a complete staff, and this needs to be owned by the staff. So that's what our proposal is, that we complete this once the staff is completely on board.
I have an initial reaction to that, and I know we haven't had a chance for questions yet, but my sense is that strategic plan and onboarding staff would actually provide a lot of structure for them rather than having new staff guide a plan moving forward. And I understand that you want to work with the new management team, but it's really the board that should be helping with Elizabeth, should be helping guide the development of this process. So can you just talk to me a little bit about that and why waiting for staff seems to make more sense than having a plan for them to start rocking and rolling with as they join? That just seems a little.
Well, what I tend to do is have the staff work on what they believe is achievable. I find it we can be pie in the sky and we can say, yes, we should be doing X, Y, and Z. It's the folks that are on the ground that can look at it and say, look, I think we can do this, and I think this is realistic, because they have the knowledge of what their resources are, who their partners are, and who they can achieve that with. Those ideas then come back in the form of a draft to the board to say, yep, I get it, I see it. Yes, we think this goal is wonderful. I think you should have another goal that does such and such. And then we see if that's achievable as well. This way, go ahead.
It takes the standard time for people to learn their jobs, get comfortable with an organization is 1 to 2 years. I don't know that the time frame that you propose that we'll be able to meet that, right? And so it's a red flag that's coming up for me in terms of delaying this process when it feels like structure is needed. And I don't know that we're gonna be able to have like, and the staff hired clearly are very intelligent and can step right into this work, but there is still a learning curve that's gonna take time to build those relationships to really understand an organization. And so, yeah, that feels difficult for me.
I completely understand. I believe that part of this process for your organization in particular could really be a team building process to understand the breaking down of the silos. I think that's something that really has to happen. We can write it and we can make this something that says, this is what we're doing. We can propose the goals. Goals are backed up and they're only as good as the strategies that you write to be able to achieve those goals. That's where staff have a better idea of how to get it done. You can think, we can propose the goals, but I strongly affirm that it is staff on the ground and even input from the frontline workers to their managers as to what is achievable. And that's where the strategies, and that's where you start to do your measurements, is through the strategies. So, you know, yes, it's a board process. Yes, it's your business plan.
Yeah.
I wonder if part of delaying this process is partially that hiring is gonna take a lot of energy from the staff and Elizabeth that wasn't expected at the onset of the strategic planning process, and that coming into summer, it's the busy season for CCE anyways. Is that part of the thought of?
No, that wasn't part of I mean, yes, it's all gonna take a lot of time.
Yeah.
I think a couple of things have happened. One is staff changes that weren't expected, and also, the amount of people, the amount of input we got just led to take longer than we expected, a significantly amount more. And so to where we are right today, I am in agreement that we have to, that staff buy-in will make it better, but I see your point entirely that without a strategic plan in place, it could take longer for people to get clicked
I
in.
feel like if I were coming on, I'd be like, okay, so what's the plan? How do I build and how do I do work planning with the staff? And then
I think that the important things are Jen is brand new and Jen's equivalent on the ag side is gonna be brand new. And so I think the combination of that's the priorities, to have them clearly understand, and what if the key issues, if you all agree with the key priorities that have surfaced, then we can work with the senior team leaders to say, okay, this is what your priorities are to work on. And they will establish those to begin with. And it's gonna take some team building for them to figure out the capability and the strengths that those staff members bring before they can really make plans. Part of it is that the team leaders themselves will be new.
I would just say that the strategic plan should be independent of any one individual too, though, right?
Yes, I agree with that. I do agree with that. That's why, for me, the most important thing right now is for you all to have basically agree with, I wish we had more time to have discussion about, agree with or direct me as to whether or not you think that the summary of these key areas is correct. And then at that point, for me to be able to bring in the senior program leaders and say, this is how, these are the things that we're gonna do. These are the things that we're gonna address. And as has been said quite a few times through the process, it's not gonna change what we are doing right now. It's elevating how we do them in a way that makes them more visible and
Impactful.
impactful. So that's kind of on me to make sure that the program leaders are really clear about that. And yeah, it's four people could make a really big difference in how that happens.
This is a guidance document, correct?
Correct.
So when you're bringing on, and Jack, you bring up a great point, if you're bringing people on and having them help create the guidance document, what guidance is there?
No,
Like, I can see growing, and this is a document that's going to create and foster ideas
mhm.
that, these are the things we would like to see moving forward. And they may come up and say, well, that's a great way, but this would work better. I think they're rebuilding upon having the document in place for them to get their feet wet and then start saying, hey, you know what, Chrissy, you and I can do something better than what the guidance is in the document.
These are, the way that I look at this is that these, I could have I could have guessed, probably anyone at the table could have guessed. These are the big things that we work on, but now we have the documentation that these are the big things that the community needs done. So it is partially on me to take those big buckets and structure resources. So structure how the staff, how much staff goes to what and how much money goes to what. So that's on me to structure that. But I do really believe that the staff has the capability, the current staff, as well as hopefully the new staff, has the capacity and they have the expertise to inform what we do. In fact, in some cases have more expertise than I have in their particular roles. And so it's structuring it. I don't think that they're at odds, actually. I don't think that when you say that what's the purpose of the guidance, if somebody comes in and sort of says, I know better. I think
Well, I
that,
guess, why create a document? Like, we should just stop here, we know the information. Like, there's no point to go any further if you're going to then take.
oh, I don't know. I guess to me, what I'm looking for as the ED is the concrete, is the specifics, is the goals, is the strategies, is how are we going to tell whether we're doing those things? So I need that to follow this.
So, we're in the town, we're actually redoing our comprehensive plan. So, but the comprehensive plan may go over my term. Well,
Sure.
should we wait until the next supervisor gets
No.
elected?
No, I see.
To see,
Mhm.
like, there's gotta be a point to say, hey, this is the information we have, this is the stuff we're doing, let's move forward with it. I mean, you may be waiting 6 months to delve into this in the fall,
Nothing's
Things-
changed.
right?
We
Like,
can
you
certainly,
have
we
data.
can,
My question would be is, you know that you have these positions that you need to hire. We don't have housing. Does the person exist? How long is that gonna take? And then if you have this information,
Yeah.
how long, is October now gonna become April of 2025? And that would just be one of my. And not to mention the other partners that you potentially would be working with, like me specifically, if we're talking about older adults, I can't wait until October to try to figure out a plan for 2025. If you come to me and say, hey, Chrissy, we want to work with our Office for the Aging for this, I've already submitted my budget, we're out for 2025.
I can see your point. And I don't expect that operations are gonna come to a standstill in this process,
Right.
because every time we add someone and we can train them and when we talk to them about hiring them, that we are understanding what our priorities are in terms of what we're gonna impact. So the work is not gonna come to a standstill because fortunately, we do have the staff who have been doing it already in most cases. And to be sure, there is a gap in the ag side, but that hopefully will be filled really soon too. So I do not see things coming to a standstill, but the issue of filling these positions, that is one that makes me lose sleep at night to make sure that we're gonna be able to fill them.
Do you think, Elizabeth, that there's enough expertise on the board and the current staff to actually be able to draft this plan and have it be applicable? Because I could tell you from Anka's strategic plan process, that was done when several positions were empty, including mine. And I came into it and was handed a strategic plan and thought, great, this is a guidance document I can work from. And then very quickly discovered that very little of what was in that guidance document was actually plausible or doable. So I basically had to start from scratch. And this is true across all of our program areas. So we could be potentially wasting a lot of effort just rolling forward to do it. And then get folks in here who know what's going on and having some friction there. So if there's, and that, in this case, it was the folks who were developing this plan did not have any expertise in food systems. So the goals and the strategies that they laid out, there would be no hope for them to be realistic. If you feel that we have that, then that would be a good use of time and resources to actually go ahead. But, you know, Jackie's point also is really important too, is that the staff members that come on, it's gonna be a long time before they really know what's happening, what's going on.
So would you suggest that, Elizabeth, that we would go ahead and, because you and I have talked about some of the goals, draft goals and some strategies that once the staff is on, they're going to have to come up with the tactics as to actually what happens, you know, what the workshops are and those kinds of things to address them. So that would be my question. If you want to do it the way we were going to do it, which was just to go ahead and start to put the plan together, we can do that.
Before,
there's
other people.
I gotta add my 2 cents.
No, wait.
Really?
I gotta go back to, I'm glad Jackie brought it up because I thought I was gonna be the only one sitting around the table thinking that way. Which, you know, I still would say something, but anyways, the bottom line to me is that, we here on the board, we're the guiding force behind the association for our programs, what we do, how we spend our money and everything else. What bothers me is that you would ask these new hirees what their opinions were and then formulate the plan for us to approve. I've sat there on strategic plans before too, and it works, from my experiences, it works just the opposite. The people that make the final decisions formulate the plan, and then it's brought to the people that are actually gonna implement the plan for them to do the work. Because the bottom line is, if we don't utilize our resources, and I think that you've got all the information that you need there on where we need to concentrate, and I agree with every single one of them. That's what we need to do, is move ahead, get the plan in place. You know, we'll hire some new positions, fill some new positions, but it's their job to figure out how to fulfill our plan.
Right. I mean, especially since you already have the farmland protection and food systems plan. And it's approved and everybody's gung ho to implement it, that.
I
you
do
know,
feel like that when that piece is already so solidly in place, I do feel like that is.
So
something-
whoever replaces Carly has that direction already.
Will you remind me, it's also a 3-year plan, so this is not like something that's defining the next 5-7 years.
Right.
It's actually a rather short-term plan, which means let people get their bearings, and then they are really set in their positions and can help define the next one as well. But I do think that there's important work, especially with that, the wellness and health sectors, for like you to start rocking and rolling in.
So I feel comfortable with that. Honestly, really, my, I, out of recognition for the staff, I really want to make sure that the staff has involvement in that process, but I can certainly start to tackle that now. And I think that, there's gonna be a sweet spot between not wasting time and waiting too long and letting time go by without making more progress, and taking the time to be thorough about putting the pieces in place. And in particular, Chrissy, I do feel like your role is gonna be really important in this, your input into this, because of the demographics of our county and because of the opportunities. And I think also, I think that we have an incredible resource in Jen because she has been through these kind of processes before. So she's preloaded a little bit to solve some of those problems that, not solve problems, but create plans and goals and really, during the,
Not everything is gonna work. Not everything's gold. Like, but there will be, I think, a starting point for the new staff coming in to start to work towards, like, having it implemented for them here. I think as you start seeing some of those goals and some of the things that are working, not working, will help make the next plan better.
yeah, I think that that's true. And that's something that I actually think is helpful about what you pointed out, Jackie, is this is a 3-year plan. And we have to get this part right, especially in new things that we have not done before, new partnerships and new efforts that we haven't ever measured before. And then at that time, re-up it. After that new staff has had those 3 years to do what needs doing.
So we
Ruth?
can do it the way that we originally had planned, which was to do, bring back to the board, 6 or 7 strategic goals. And Elizabeth, I think you and I can at least put the strategies there so the staff know the direction. It will be up to them then to say how, which workshops are going to help fulfill those strategies, etc. That way you will at least have the goals and some of the directions that they need to at least look at. And somebody was correct. Not everything is going to work. So they can try those strategies and come back with other suggestions. So we can certainly do that because the goals have to be approved. That's the board's roadmap this is where we're going. So do you want to bring that back the next meeting, or when's the next meeting after that?
The next meeting is not until May and we don't have a date yet because we haven't made it. So,
you and I will need to devote the time and perhaps bring in a couple of staff members to, work with you on that, depending.
absolutely. Yeah, that's fine.
But that's up to the board. I mean, that's if the board wants us to move forward on goals and strategies, which we were going to do because we thought we were going to have all of the, we were going to be able to have all of the initiatives that would go with them based on having staff, and there is no staff, or there's very little staff.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to you, Adam, having the perspective from Anka. How do you feel like having heard, you were basically the only dissenting opinion kind of in the room?
Well, yes and no. I think it is important to go quickly on this, and having that farmland protection and food system plan is a huge asset that can help guide this. We didn't have that. Our strategic plan was done by our executive director, another director, and a consultant. So they had very limited knowledge of all the program areas, and the stuff they put down was completely unrealistic.
Not the board, like.
The board was not involved in it, so. And as far as employee buy-in goes, I mean, Ruth Ellen, you said this is a business plan, so it needs to be a living document. It's not a one and done. It's something that we're gonna come back to again and again, and if you want employee buy-in, this is another thing that could be different in this sense. Let your staff know that it's okay to dissent. Don't just say, this is what it is, you gotta do it, because that's a recipe for failure.
I agree.
Well,
You have to hold people to standards, that's really important. If you put that down, absolutely, this is your job, you gotta do it. But it's also important to listen to people when they come back to you and say, can we change this, can we tweak this?
Especially if you're talking about building relationships with other organizations. You're bringing in money that was never seen before, that has some link to some type of programming. I mean, I'm sure you're going to continue to do that. I hope you would continue
I
to
do.
do that.
I do.
Right, and also that, I mean, that opens up all sorts of doors that are not in this plan. So, I mean,
Mhm. Yeah, I think that that these are not mutually incompatible things. I think
No,
we can
no.
move forward and we can get a lot, I really do trust the staff and want the staff input. And I do wanna have, and I do want the new people who come in to have a really clear idea of what they're doing. And that's important. Yeah.
As long as what they're doing, Elizabeth, is what the board sees as what they want to achieve, the major goals, priority goals for the next 3 years. One of the things I see of an outcome of a strategic plan is you learn what works and what doesn't work. And when it's not working, you change the strategies to reach the goal.
Fair, all good. I think that, so does and maybe everyone hasn't had a chance to fully digest it, but I would suggest that we do need to have a kind of general assent that these priority areas are informed by a lot of conversations. We didn't make them up yesterday. So I guess I would like to have some sense that you all agree that we didn't miss anything big and that we didn't throw in anything that's really not consequential enough for me to be focusing on.
no, I mean, it seems like, you know, the directions that we've been trying to go in all along.
I know, I'm not surprised by that. It's just that now we have some documentation that the community agrees. That's what I really
Yeah.
needed behind it.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
wasn't, the staff was right, the previous board decisions were right, but I think it's important to check in on that, and the community clearly does agree.
Well, I think everything that is in this report is kind of the stuff that's brought to the board of supervisors every month. Like, we get the stuff about the mental health, the public health. We get stuff about agriculture and the food system and trying to get more of how good we've been at getting food into schools. Workforce development, we see that with the welding program and all of those types of things.
Yeah,
So,
we can play
it's
off
like-
of this effect of welding in other 4-H programs.
It's like this whole report came from like the last few months at the county, so I mean, it definitely echoes everything that I've been seeing. And I think the more that we can get CCE involved with helping with some of these problems, I think it's just bigger and better, and we can get more money, get more staffing, and tackle more problems.
May I make one more comment? And that is, you're absolutely correct that every single one of these things, you know, we heard from Sean as to what they're hearing, and I go back to what the concerns were from the surveys from the board, from previous communications with the board, and that is there is a concern about the relevance and what CCE is doing to impact community issues. This plan and the goals need to be clear about what CCE is doing to achieve different outcomes for some of these issues and to communicate them so that your relevance is much more observable in the community and that what you're doing is more clearly linked to community needs. Those two things were the priorities that came out of information from the board. And so therefore, for the goals to be able to say, this is what we're going to do because the community needs, say, X, Y, and Z, and then to communicate that. Part of what I heard through your input was you needed to have a better public relations communication plan about your relevance and exactly what you're doing to achieve community needs outcomes. That's where this should make a difference.
Well, like I said, when we met on Thursday, all these goals that we have concentrating on the youth in the county and the elderly, and that's.
The older adults.
I just saw what time it is here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
But those are, and I agree with you 100%. That's something that I've been trying to preach here since I've been on the board, is I'd like to see the end results of these programs with the results and numbers of participants and things like that, to see what's working and what's not. And so I'm 100% behind that, have been, right from the start.
I just realized what time it is. So I think that, Ruth Ellen, I think that, the board should have maybe a conversation about the proposal, separately from you being in the room.
Right.
So,
Well,
um,
it
and-
sounds like we're gonna proceed without postponing it anyway. So, all right.
I'll be in touch with you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Wow, y'all, I'm very sorry that took so long. I did not expect that. So,
It's an important issue.
sorry. So, your point is, I think I have a sense of the meeting that what you want me to do is go forward and develop this more. I will do that. I feel good about that. And, as far as the proposal to continue working with Ruth Ellen, I would recommend that I do recommend that we pay her more. Honestly, her proposal was less than half of what the other two consultants pitched to us, and she has vastly exceeded the amount of time that we expected that she would spend on this, because she went down, it really took the time to go and get as much input as she could. And, so I would love for you to, I would recommend that you support an additional $2,000 for her to wrap this up. And one of the reasons the drivers behind waiting a little bit was to not engage the board too much, because we were trying to shoot for getting it done by April. So your point about do we have the board resources? Yes, we do. The goal was to try not to impose too much on this board's time to do that. But I think under the circumstances, because we do have half the house really in good shape, I think that if you can help me work on some of the, I'm not asking for a lot of time, but to maybe review, I'll set up a similar kind of plan. It won't be as comprehensive, but we do have the background information for what we're gonna do in the way, and a lot of it is laid out in here. And then I think we can.
Was this put out to bid to do the
Yes.
strategic plan?
Yes, we had bids of up to $20,000. One was over and one was just under.
And why would there be an increase in funds?
Well, the increase in funds, I thought she was undercharging us to begin with. And she vastly exceeded the amount of time that we described to her the work would take. That's why I was gonna propose that, and she said, well, if we're gonna wait, it's gonna cost more if we're, to sustain this over the summer and into the fall. Bless you. Bless you. And I thought it was an unrealistic bid in the first place, frankly. But I think we got more than our money's worth, so if you just decide not to do that.
I'm also not understanding, so you're gonna write up something in addition to what she's already written up, like.
This is a compilation of what the research, the supporting research. This is not the plan itself.
Right, yeah, okay, but why would you be writing up something?
I would be working with her.
Okay, to
Yes,
develop something,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I do trust her experience a lot in,
I just didn't know if you're saying we were gonna take on writing something to prepare for us, and then she's gonna continue her own thing. I wasn't
No.
understanding.
no,
I'd like to ask Matt a question. You said you're going through a strategic plan?
Comprehensive plan,
Comprehensive,
Yeah.
okay. Same, basically the same.
yeah.
I was involved in Willsboro's a number of years ago. Did you put that out for bid on?
We haven't, we're still in the phase of trying to get a grant, because our first initial estimates were around $95,000.
ouch.
So, we lost a grant by 2 points. So we're going for another grant, but changing the scope of work a little bit, but we have a whole board working on that plan, so it's not just like a couple of people.
We did it. We had to keep track of all of our time
Mhm.
under a
Mhm.
grant,
Yeah,
and, it wasn't anywhere near what you were talking about.
right. But I guess I just seen a proposal of coming back for more money. It's kind of like, how many have you done of these? You should kind of have an idea, especially she's been talking about in other counties,
Mhm.
like strategic plan, like. I wouldn't expect anybody that we went and got a bid from to then come back and ask for more money.
I understand
to finish
that.
the work.
I understand that.
I agree 100%. If, for, you know, if she's not asking for more money to begin with, that's one thing. But, you know, say we get the plan done and we've got some extra money. Okay, let's evaluate what we end up with her expertise in the end, and then make that decision. Rather than in the forefront.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
We
Plus,
can always-
he
we
didn't
can
want
always-
this extra money until the plan was completed anyway. But,
That's the way I look at it right
yeah,
now.
Can I add one other piece of feedback and then I will stop talking because I know everyone wants to go home.
I know, I appreciate y'all staying late. I had no idea we were this late.
I would just say her presentation, like in term, it was like 30 minutes of talking and I would just like maybe more break up, maybe an opportunity for the board to actually discuss the content a little bit more.
I should have interrupted her sooner, probably. I agree completely.
That's not on you. I'm just saying for next time, in terms of engaging the board.
Yeah, I agree completely. Okay. I'm at your disposal. What would you, do you have any specific things? I mean, do you want to summarize this? And does anyone want to summarize this in any way?
Well, I'm perfectly happy with the goals that we, you know, the information that we've done up with. That's what we want to concentrate on. I don't have a problem with that at all.
yeah, no, I think it's,
It sounds to me like there's a consensus to move forward as the plan has been laid out and to keep the budget the same for McClellan at this moment.
Okay,
Does that sound accurate to everyone else?
Yeah.
And we want more meeting time with more active board feedback time on what's been made so far.
Yeah.
I could listen to what.
Nice.
That was very good.
thank you. Okay,
We'll
so,
nominate you for president again next year.
so the question is that how, do you want to meet about this specifically by itself again? That's my question, and
It sounds like there is a lot of interest in that.
okay, that's what we'll do.
And so.
one thing I don't
Poll us.
quite see discussed is the metrics for successive meetings.
The metrics for success of meetings?
Meeting the.
Meeting
goals.
these goals.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, since it's not dollars and cents necessarily, but, you know,
we can flesh that out quite a bit more. I
All
think
right.
that we have a great model in the farmland protection plan that is really identifies who's gonna do what, and maybe who's gonna do it is gonna be a position that doesn't have a name in it yet. But it's
All right.
going to be the responsibility of a person to do a thing. And so, and there are really good indicators, evidence of success or evidence of, or I forget what it's called in that plan, but we can have, indicators of the heck, I don't remember.
Metrics.
No, there's,
Indicators of success, or there's also KPIs, key performance indicators.
I think it might be key performance indicators in that plan, so we can use that same format if that one, if that suits, and again, we'll just not fill in the name, but fill in the role of who's gonna do that.
I think that'll be more dug into in the next meeting. is-
Yeah, so do you,
Sounds like.
we should shoot for April?
Yeah, I think we should shoot for April. with
Okay.
This like amount of momentum, especially
Okay.
in this topic.
Okay, great. All right.
We'll do the pause. Only last thing I want to say is that on Friday, I sent an email asking for nominating committee ideas. So please, I just sent it on Friday, so please think it over and send me ideas, both for like just nominees that I can appoint this year and nominating committee community members to form a full, I need board members and community members to make a full nominating committee, the official kind. In the meantime, I can appoint people, but that's boring to me, so please help me with that. With that, we need a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
We'll make it.
Thank you, Jackie.
I'll second.
Unanimous. Unanimous second.
All in favor?
Don't dawdle over these things.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Be well.
Hi, Paul.
So Elizabeth, I have two questions.
I did.
One includes Tricia. So my Girl Scout troop is going to be starting their gardening badge. So would that be something that I can incorporate the master gardeners in? Like, we would buy all the materials. I just don't know
If
anything
it's
about it.
educational, it's educational.
Okay.
Yes.
So do I make arrangements with you, with Lori, with who?
Mina, maybe. Yeah.
And then,
It's so complicated.
Thank you, Laura and Lori.
Just realizing.
second thing I'm
There's
going
very
to
little.
is, are we still planning on meeting?
In the morning.
8:30?
Can I bring?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. if we,
Oh,
I
thank
would like to hear more from
I
you
think
about
that
kind of
will-
where,
But
Um,
we're on the same page and,
No, we.
do you have a time?
Yeah, I
Let's do
didn't
it.
know
Yes.
because this was presented.
Well, we knew that there was, you were the last one because we